This video is about multiplication properties of monomials. Now, multiplying monomials. First thing we got to remember is, what is a monomial? A monomial is a number, a variable, or the product of a number and one or more variables with non-negative integer exponents. Now, what that basically means is you can't have a variable in the denominator. You can't add or subtract monomials. Remember, that's how we create binomials and trinomials. So we're looking for something where it's a product or things are all being multiplied together with no negative exponents or no variables in the denominator. Okay? An expression of the form x to the nth power is called a power and represents the product you obtain when x is used as a factor n times. Here's what that's saying. Whatever power something is raised to is how many times you multiply that base, with the base being x here, times itself. Okay? Now, we've got three properties that we're going to focus on for this lesson. The first property is called the product of powers. It says a to the m times a to the n is equal to a to the m plus n. Now, here's what that's saying in kind of normal language, if you will. When you multiply two things together, if the bases are the same, add the exponents. So when you multiply and the bases are the same, add the exponents. So let's try that for a couple of problems here. This first piece, I have 3x to the 6th, and I'm multiplying that with 5x squared. Always look at these things in pieces. So for example, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 3 times 5. The second thing I'm going to do is multiply x to the 6th times x to the 2nd. All right, now 3 times 5 is 15. X to the 6th times x to the 2nd is that product of powers now being applied to a problem. So because I'm multiplying and the bases are the same, add the powers, you get x to the 8th. This simplified is 15x to the 8th. It's literally that simple. Okay, take a look at the second example. Now I have a monomial times a monomial, but I have multiple pieces here. Look at each piece separately. I have negative 4 times 3 for the numbers. I have a to the 3rd times a to the 2nd for the a's. I have b, which is really b to the 1st, times b to the 5th. Remember, any variable written without a power on it means that it's raised to the first power. In the beginning, I have negative 4 times 3. That's simple arithmetic, negative 12. I have the power property being, the product of powers property being applied right there. I know that when I multiply, I add the powers. So I have a to the 3 plus 2, which is 5. I have the property being applied again right here. So I have b to the 1 plus 5, which would be b to the 6th. And that's my final answer. All right? So we have a couple of more properties here also that definitely get applied for when we're trying to simplify. Now, when we're trying to simplify, that means that we're going to write it in its simplest form possible. The two additional properties is power of a power, which says that if I have a value raised to a power, raised to another power. How do I handle that? Well, if you have power to power, you multiply the powers. The third one is called the power of a product. Now, the power of a product says if you have multiple pieces being raised to a power, distribute that power. All right? So when we multiply, we add the powers. Power to power, multiply the powers. And when we have power of a product or multiple things being raised to a power, give that power to each piece. Okay? So let's take a look at this example right here and see if we can simplify this by applying all the necessary properties. Now, the first thing that I notice is I have a monomial here that has 3 pieces. And that monomial with 3 pieces is being raised to the 3rd power. I'm going to distribute that power to all 3 pieces. So that gives me negative 2 to the 3rd. A, since it's a, I'm going to write a to the 1st to the 3rd. B to the 2nd to the 3rd. And then I have this second part over here, which is a to the 2nd to the fourth. So I'm just going to rewrite that, since that's all we did with the left side was just kind of broke everything into pieces. Okay, so I notice I have a number being raised to a power. Negative 2 to the third means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which would give me negative 8. I have the property called the power of a power being involved right there, and right there. 3 different occasions. I'm going to apply that property that says if you have a power to a power, multiply the powers to all 3 of these independently. So a to the first times third is just a to the 1 times 3, or 3. B to the second to the third is b to the 2 times 3, which would be 6. A to the second to the fourth is a, because it's power to power, a to the 2 times 4, which would be a to the 8th. Now, as I wrote this answer, I noticed this and this are the same base. And remember, each one of these monomial pieces is being multiplied together. So I have a to the third and a to the 8th. That's multiplication property being exposed now, the product property, which says add the powers. So I have negative 8, a to the 3 plus 8, which is 11, and b to the 6th. All right? Hope this video helps. Realize these can try to get more and more complicated, but they all fall back to the simple properties. Let me know if you have any questions.